Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket nines. In this hand, under the gun, open raises 2.8. He's playing 23-10. His raise first in stat from early position 16%. He looks like he is a fairly tightish player. Does have some slight aggressive tendencies. However, I wouldn't consider him overly aggressive. I think when we look at his opening range, 16% is probably something like that. Broadways, suited aces, probably. Maybe not all suited aces. It just kind of depends. If he doesn't have all of the suited aces, maybe he has a couple more offsuits. So maybe you get rid of those and you add that. That gets back up to 16%. Do I have any stats on, any notes on him? I got raised first in stats. I don't want to look at that. 3-bet range is like 2%, so probably like kings plus, queens plus, ace king, something like that. It folds around to me, and I'm on the button, and I have an opportunity to 3-bet. I think this is probably a decent opportunity to 3-bet. We're kind of at a in part of our range where we can 3-bet or call. If we look at what kind of hands I'm trying to do this with, is these. This is a 3-bet or call range. Nines are definitely in there. Versus this player, I think if we raise quite a few of these hands, he's probably going to fold. Nines is acceptable to try to catch him with some extra money. Liberate him of some of his extra chips, because I don't think he's going to be c-betting a whole lot. He's c-betting at about 45% or so, in position and out of position, and then his c-bet, his barreling really drops off. So I do think he's pretty honest. If he c-bets, he's got something, and then on the turn, if he barrels a turn, he definitely has at least a pair, probably better. So I think a call is good here to try to take down some pots. And also when you look at the blinds are fairly tight. I think if we just call here, we're not encouraging them to call to make loose calls. So I don't really have a need to isolate. I did call, and then the flop comes down 7-2-3. So this is definitely a hand that I do not think this hits his range at all. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know when I played this hand. I'm kind of going back earlier hands this year to get into the situations where villain's going to c-bet and we have a call or raise opportunity. So I don't think this hits his range at all. I do think 5.2 seems a little big. So, what is he doing this with? I think overpair, yeah, is a possibility. Top pair is probably a possibility. Maybe one of these pairs is a possibility. Do I think he's going to be doing it with like an ace king? Maybe. So if we do overcards, I think we can kind of narrow it down. Not so much those, but let's say he c-bets, let's say ace jack plus king queen. I think that is suitable. That gets him up to 60%. I think he's just being aggressive here, and I think a lot of people could could make that play. Because he might be making that play, I think this is a really good opportunity here to raise. We're not looking at gut shots. We don't really have flush draws. I think this is a spot where I could raise here and put him to the test. And how much do I raise? 16, 15 big blinds. If he, what hands is he going to call with? I think if I raise, he's probably only going to be calling with an overpair. And actually, I think he probably, he might call with a set, might call with some of the big overpair like aces, kings, and queens, and goes for extra value on the turn. Hands like 8s, 9s, 10s, and jacks probably come in for a raise to try to get all in. I think ace-7 calls, or top pair calls. I think 5s and 6s probably fold, and then I'm also folding at, I think, ace king, ace queen, ace jack, king queen, and so forth, which buys us some equity. So I think this is a pretty good spot. I think I'm finding a spot where I can raise. What other hands am I going to raise with? Sets, overpair, top pair. I think pocket pair below the top card is definitely good. I think we're raising with all of those. We don't really have anything else, which is a little surprising. So maybe I have to revise my range. If we think about what am I doing this with, I'm getting close to, well, not 100%, but we could. We're definitely betting, some value here. Actually, no, I kind of like that. That's 60%. It's unlikely this board hits the opponent, so we're just being aggressive, and it makes it hard to play against us because if we can do it with these sets of cards, we can also do it with 2, 3, ace 4. If we had ace 4 in our range, maybe we're a little bit too straightforward in our ranges. If we can think about us calling a pre-flop raise and then making this play, maybe it'll be too easy for people to say, well, I have an overpair with that. So maybe we have to look at also doing that with like maybe 8-9 or 10-9, something like that, just to kind of add a couple of bluffs in the range. Let's color those up. Maybe. I don't think this hits his range. What if we just do all of them? So 100% check raise? That could be possible. 100% or 100% raise. All right, I think that's pretty good. So I didn't raise, I just called. And I think that calling puts us at a slight disadvantage because we don't, if a 10 or jack, a queen, a king, or an ace falls, it's going to put us at a tough spot. Those are cards that are obviously going to beat us. They have the potential to beat us. And I think if we raise, we can get some of those hands out, and thus we can realize our equity. And I think that that's probably the play, is just to raise, and looks like probably raise 100% here, even with our junk, with the realization that if we raise here and we don't improve, a lot of our junk's going to be gone. But if we do improve, let's say we do it with, let's say, 9-10, and we pick up an 8 or a 6, I think we have the possibility of firing again, potentially getting him to fold now if he's stubborn with ace king or king queen. Get stubborn because he has 5.2. His size does suggest that he has some piece of this, maybe. I don't know. So I call, and then we see a turn. Turn's a queen of diamonds, and this is exactly the type of card that I didn't want to see, and I think that's would be the real benefit of raising with nines. We're vulnerable. We don't want to face a card like this, and even if we do and villain checks, we can check behind and get to a showdown, hopefully relatively cheaply. But villain bets again now. He sized down. He went like 5.2 on the flop, and now he's betting 6.6. So what is he doing that with? To me, with the size down, I mean, he was trying to be aggressive here. I don't think he's doing it with the flush draw. I think he has a made hand. So I think he's doing it with the 8s, 9s, 10s, or jacks. Maybe. I think sets are going to go larger, closer to half pot bet sizing. I think overpair 2. Man, I think maybe this top pair. Maybe middle pair. I just don't think. I think his barreling. Well, his barreling frequencies are pretty small. He's out of position, barreling at 1 out of 4, so he's gonna have something. Maybe not a whole lot. top pair, pocket pair less than the top card. I kind of feel like it can't be top pair. I think if he improved, he's going to go larger. He's going to bet something closer to 8.5 or 9, maybe even bigger, just to try to get out some of the diamond draws. I mean, I did call. I could have potentially a 4-5 or a 5, or I'm sorry, an ace-3, ace-2. Maybe something like that. Something pretty weak. I'm going to say pretty weak, and then we could always take a note on it. As I said, I liked my raise initially. I think this is going to be in a tough spot. I think sizing down can work. I think it suggests we should be calling. We could be behind the 10s and jacks, and we'll see. I think if he checks the river, we definitely fire and hopefully get jacks, 10s to fold. Yeah, we're going to be ahead of some of the other hands, but I think our target's that 10 and jack. So we call jack spades hits. He checks. I think we're ahead at this point. I think I had a plan to do 10s and jacks. Obviously, I don't think he has a jack, so is there any value in us betting and having him call? Maybe. If he thinks we're going to bluff. So if he thinks we're going to bluff, he might be calling with some of these hands with 8s or with 7s, 6s, 5s. It's definitely possible. So I think we go for some value here. I think we go for maybe 20 big blinds, 2/3 pot. See if he calls. If he calls, we're probably going to be ahead. I didn't do that. I checked behind, so we get to see what he shows. And he had aces. So did I have that on there? No. Raise first in an early position with king 4 suited. So now he did it with his aces, which is a little strange to play it that way. I'm not sure why he did it, but it kind of matches his passivity. So I think what we can do is raise first in an early position with king 4 suited. We're going to say ace ace, king 4 suited. I think we need to get some turn play. How about we get some information about his flop sizing? C-bet, that was like 75%. On 7-3-2 rainbow. Barrel 1/3 pot on queen turned. So we didn't get his hand. And it kind of goes back to the turn. Our flop was okay. We had that in here. Definitely overpair. I think when the queen of diamonds hit, it kind of threw me off. I would have assumed he would have gone larger with these overpairs. He didn't, which kind of makes me think that he wouldn't go larger with sets or top pair. So that kind of fixes like what cards he's going to be doing that with. It just doesn't make sense why he would do something like that. I think the raise wouldn't have been good. We would have raised, he would have called. Queen of diamonds hit, we check. Jack of spades hits. If he checks, we check behind. We've got some showdown value hand. But I think, and I think we're just basing it on what we think he could call. With him calling, I would definitely give him an overpair. And I think the only overpair that would call in his range on the turn, or call a turn bet, would be aces, kings, and trip queens. Jacks, maybe, but 10s that beat us probably fold. So that's why I think on the turn, I think usually if we're going to raise a flop, we should be betting the turn again. But I think on that turn card, it's just a bad turn card for us to continue betting. I think we had anything from 9s and lower. maybe even 10s and lower that we could be betting. We didn't get one of those cards, so I think we just have to chalk it up, check, and wait for the next hand. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this. I do think we missed the flop raise, and I think that's being aggressive. Might not have worked out this hand, but I think it's just situations we have to look for and try to take advantage of when they arise. Hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another hand.